we're seeing an unprecedented amount of cooperation and collaboration among cities across the world as cities and mayors and city councils start to understand the importance and the important role they play in reducing the impacts of climate change. We're particularly seeing cities begin to plan differently and to understand that the zoning decisions they make, the land use decisions they make are actually also transportation decisions. In fast-growing municipalities around the world, people are starting to realize that if you spread that growth out, you're creating traffic problems. And if you can densify the growth and create more vertical infrastructure, that often has an opportunity for things like transit, walking, biking, in addition to the automobile, to play a role in transportation. I also think you're seeing cities experiment with new technologies. And technology is going to be a differentiator for cities in the future. It will play a role in helping us reduce the impacts of climate change from mobile sources, but it will also help the planning process and, frankly, I think, livability in cities across the world. Well, I think the thing people are talking about the most when it comes to new technologies in transportation are things like the driverless car. Everyone's talking about this around the world. And I think there's a lot of excitement, both in industry and among consumers. The challenge with the driverless car is of course, building a regulatory environment that ensures safety and gives industry appropriate rules and guidelines to follow. But it's also the integration of the technology into the old fleet, which is, for a while we're going to have mixed traffic between human-driven cars and artificially intelligent cars. I think drones and the commercial use of drones in the U.S. is another differentiator for the future. My wife will tell me around the holiday season that she's done such a great job of avoiding trips to the mall because she's bought everything online, but then I have to remind her that she's created 20 or 30 trips for trucks to come bring things to the house. And I think drones are going to give us another way to move goods on an individual basis, perhaps not on a cargo basis, but on an individual basis that will hopefully take some of the pressure off of our road systems around the world. So this is another area, the area of integrating big data, technology, the understanding of how systems are actually going to use this type of information in the future. There needs to be an even stronger collaboration between academia, industry, and the public sector to make this work. And I think the one sector that is probably lagging behind the other two is the public sector. Public sector institutions are notoriously slow to adopt technologies. I think in transportation that tends to be even more so. And the reason why is because you have to be sure the investments you make are actually going to work. And so people tend to want to wait to see how a given new device or a new feature or new data actually can help them. But in this instance, what I would say to my friends around the world in municipalities and in government in general is that we are going to see a rate of change in transportation technology over the next decade that will rival anything that's ever happened, whether it's the cell phone or how we listen to music or anything else. This is going to be a radical change, and governments need to get their arms around now being able to capture information that can help them plan better and serve better the public they represent. And I just don't think there's time to wait on this. I think governments are going to have to get more experimental. They're going to have to tolerate a certain amount of failure in order to realize the opportunities of the future. I have to say that what RTA and IRF are doing by bringing academia, bringing industry and government together is so critical at this time, because there is so much happening in transportation, so much rapid change occurring, that having these conversations and figuring out where government wants to advance and involving academia and industry in that process is so critical because there are tools that are available today that we didn't have even 5 years ago. And next year there'll be more tools. And so this conversation has to continue.